Sherry, probably. It's you, is it? Okay, all right.
I can go close the door, Walter. Just give me a second.
No, Jeff's coming in there. So yeah, we have Sherry in the other room here, and I can hear myself half a second later talking. So anyways, the first item is a confirmation of the agenda, and we have an amended agenda. Is there any other additions to this agenda, Carla?
No, there's no more additions.
Okay, so motion then to confirm the agenda would be in order. Moved by Councillor Tam, seconded by Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. All right. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Okay. Grab my sheet here. I got more pages on this desk tonight. Okay. The bylaws for the RITS agreements for West Perth to act as a guarantor are included in the agenda as items 9.2 and 9.3. The information is provided in accordance with council's direction. We are not planning to have legal counsel in attendance to answer questions. However, we would like to see these bylaws passed tonight to assist the Ritz Lutheran Villa. Jeff can answer questions, but if any counselor has a question that they would like to have Steve Amelia answer, we can make arrangements to contact him and have him join the Zoom meeting when we get to agenda items 9.2 and 9.3. We have arranged that. So at this time, I'll ask, does any counselor have a question that they would like us to try and set up with Mr. Amelia to answer? Okay, all right. Yeah, speak now or forever hold your peace, as they say. And if there's no questions, then Jeff is going to advise Steve that he can probably go out on the golf course to do what he wants, that we are not going to be calling him. So very good. Thanks a lot. Good, good. So the consent agenda is here. There's a number of items on the consent agenda, actually 14 to be exact. Is there anything there anybody would like a little more information on or want a bit of discussion on at all? Seeing none. Doug, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. I'm going to make you bigger here. If I can do that. There we go. Okay. Doug, do you want to maybe just highlight the county portion there, the synopsis of what has been going on at the county report? Just briefly. I know it's there and everybody's had a chance to read it, but maybe you can just highlight something if you want.
The highlight would be that we moved a whole bunch of people to, is it called One? The old Scotia Bank on Ontario. We moved half our staff there to accommodate the courts. Now the courts aren't back running yet. Walter, did they have a date?
I believe September 1st, I think.
Yeah. So what we had to do is we had to modify a lot of the courthouse to accommodate social distancing. It's a really big thing in the court system to get everything back and working. Does anybody have any questions on it?
Okay. No, there's been a lot of we have to do a lot of kind of modification and renovations in the bottom floor of the courthouse just to accommodate that. So
make it flow, I guess you'd say.
Okay, if there's no questions on the consent agenda, motion then it'd be in order to accept the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Murray. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Now, I'll flip over here. Okay, so we need to adjourn our council meeting, right, Carla?
That's correct, because we'll be going into a Perth County public meeting.
Right. So a motion to adjourn at 7:06 to go have a public meeting. Councillor Marshall and Councillor Rose. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. So the public meeting is called to order at 7:07. And are there any conflicts of pecuniary interest with any member of council for this public meeting? Okay, seeing none, I would ask Carla to tell us the purpose of this public meeting.
So the purpose of this public meeting pursuant to the Ontario Planning Act is to review an application for a draft plan of subdivision and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the application. Council will not make a decision on the application at this meeting. Based on the recommendations and the information received at the public meeting, a draft plan of subdivision will be presented for approval at a Perth County Council meeting. Those in attendance wishing to make comment concerning the application will be given an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal to council's decision must make a verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to council. If any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on the application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the County of Perth, Tyler Sager, at perthcounty.ca.
Okay. So this is a public meeting for a proposed draft plan of subdivision affecting property described as part of Park Lot 4, Registered Plan 339, Parts 1, 2, and 3 on Reference Plan 44R 3348 in the Municipality of West Perth, commonly known as 216 George Street, and it's owned by 2729988 Ontario Inc. And I'll now call upon Evan Suggan, our planner, on behalf of Perth County to review the draft plan of subdivision. And I don't see him on. Oh, there he is. Okay, good. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. My name is Evan Sugden. I'm a planner with MHBC Planning in Kitchener, and some of you might know MHBC has been retained by the County of Perth to provide assistance with the review of their development applications. And myself and Pierre Chauvin, who I believe is also on this Zoom meeting, are in attendance today to present to you a draft plan of a draft plan of subdivision at the subject property, which is 216 St. George Street in Mitchell. So I thought maybe I would just give you a high-level overview. The recommendation is essentially that you receive the report for information and that you recommend to the County of Perth Council that you approve this plan of subdivision subject to several draft plan approval conditions. So the subdivision is located at a property municipal address as 216 St. George Street and proposes 28 residential units. So 10 of those units are proposed as single detached residential dwellings, 5 of which are going to be fronting along Pond Street, and the other 5 fronting onto St. George Street. Carla, I'm not sure if I can share my screen or not, but perhaps if you're able to, does every councillor have a copy of the draft plan in front of them? Okay, so I'll just continue then. And then 18 of the lots are proposed through a extension of Thames Avenue. And those are planned for townhouse dwelling units.
Evan, you do have the ability to share screen if you wish.
Okay, well, if everybody has it in front of them, then I think we should be able to follow. The applications thought I'd give a bit of a background. So there were 3 separate applications to develop this parcel originally. One was 5 separate consents to subdivide the lots that are to be fronting along Pond Street. Then there was a separate plan of subdivision application to subdivide the lands, which are forming phase 2, which are the 5 lots along St. George Street. And then a second subdivision application that would subdivide the lands forming part of the Thames Avenue extension. So that would have been the townhouses. In discussions with the applicant's agent, Carolyn Baker, and our engineering consultant, we found it best to, in terms of procedural order and in terms of developing the lands through a phased approach, to do one application for plan of subdivision. So they have abandoned the original applications and are resubmitting this to do 28 lots on one plan through 3 phases. So phase 1 will be the lots along Pond Street. Phase 2 will be the lots along St. George Street. And phase 3 will be the townhouse lots through site plan control via the Thames Avenue extension. So servicing for the subdivision is planned to be full municipal services, the lots along Pond Street and the lots along St. George to connect into existing municipal sanitary and storm and water, and the lots as part of the Thames Avenue extension will require full infrastructure build out, and those are all costs to be borne by the applicant. So in that respect, they have submitted supporting studies, including a planning justification report, a traffic impact assessment, functional servicing report, which addresses sanitary servicing capacity, water servicing capacity, stormwater, and grading. And the county has found those to be sufficient to address the requirements of the official plan and the Mitchell County Ward official plan. As part of the application for a plan of subdivision, the applicants have also submitted a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property, which is currently zoned future development, to permit the subdivision and residential dwellings. So the phases 1 and 2, which are the singles along Pond Street and St. George Street, are proposed to be rezoned to R2 with a site-specific provision to reduce the frontage from 15 meters to 14.5 meters, and then rezone the phase 3, which is the center of the subdivision, from future development to a higher density R4 zone to permit the townhouse dwellings. They've also requested a reduction in the interior side yard setback, and the county is in agreement with the requested variances, given that it allows them some additional room to meet the density guidelines of the county and Mitchell Ward official plan. So it just creates a more fluid lot design, lot fabric, and allows these guidelines in terms of density to be met. So we have given 26 specific draft plan conditions that they need to meet, subject to your approval, and many of them have to do with certain specifics in terms of phasing. So there'll be certain requirements they have to meet for each phase of development as they progress. We have circulated the required agencies and the Municipality of West Perth, who have reviewed the application and have provided some comments, which are included on page 25 of the agenda. And for the most part, there is no concerns. The Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who has a tiny portion of regulated area to the west of the property boundary, has confirmed that the properties outside the area that would be impacted by regulatory flooding. We had circulated them because the Upper Thames River is to the west. The school board has no concerns, and the fire department has no concerns or comments. However, the Municipality of West Perth operations manager and BM Ross have commented that as part of an ongoing tender through the municipality to mill and resurface St. George Street, they would like the applicant to take that opportunity to install the required services for those 5 lots along St. George Street. Part of the cost to be borne by the applicant, including supporting Hydro One poles located along St. George Street. I guess perhaps I'll just leave you with a conclusion. I know the applicant's agent, Caroline Baker, is here to present a little bit more, but in county's opinion, the proposed plan of subdivision is consistent with provincial policy statement, the updated version 2020. The proposed plan of subdivision conforms to the approvals criteria as outlined in section 5124 of the Planning Act, which is a requirement for us to review. And we can confirm that it has conformed with those sections. The proposed plan of subdivision conforms with the general policies of the County of Perth official plan and the Mitchell Ward official plan, and meets the minimum and maximum density targets. The proposed plan of subdivision conforms to the County official plan and Mitchell Ward official plan by providing ultimately a variety a variety of form, scale, and character of new housing for the area that wasn't previously there and is compatible with the surrounding area. The subject lands are strategically located to utilize existing municipal infrastructure and servicing. And in our opinion, the overall plan represents good planning for the community of Mitchell and the County of Perth. So perhaps I'll leave it there. And if there's any questions pertaining to traffic, perhaps I can answer that specifically. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Caroline Baker as the applicant's agent.
Okay, thanks, Evan. Any questions for Evan on his part of the whole deal? Okay. Oh, sorry, Doug?
Just, I see Ontario or Hydro One on everywhere here, but isn't Erie Thames going to do the interior or no? Like you said, Hydro One removed the posts out on the highway, but I didn't see any reference to getting the okay from Erie Thames for infrastructure now.
That might just be something through your deputy mayor that we would just have to look into further. That might just be my familiarity with the municipality is not up to snuff in terms of all of the circulation agencies, but we have been in contact with the municipality of West Perth planning staff and the municipality of West Perth's engineering consultant who have informed us of the required hydro setup for the subdivision. So, but I'll make note of that and we can follow up.
Okay, good question, Doug. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Carolyn, you want to take over from here?
Walter, did you
Oh, sorry.
notice, just so I
Pardon?
could, would you like me to just provide how notice was given? Just
Well, I have that as the next thing on my agenda. I had it following Evan.
was the notice?
Yeah,
Okay.
which I thought was a little odd, but I'm following your sheet here. But we can do how notice was given if you wish right now.
I'll just make sure I get that in just for regulatory purposes.
Yeah.
So we did notice inviting persons to the public meeting were mailed on July 7th, 2020 to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject property and emailed to those agencies as prescribed by regulation. Notice was posted on the subject property advertising tonight's meeting on July 7th, 2020. In response to circulation and posting of the notice, at the time of putting the agenda together, I was informed that no correspondence was received. However, it was noted in the report, and I will clarify that within the minutes. But no further correspondence was received.
Okay, thanks, Carla. Okay, good. Okay, and I'm looking, I don't think that we have any other people on here, but I'll ask anyways. Is there anybody on here other than the applicant or their agent wishing to speak in support of this application?
No members of the public responded to the circulation requesting participation.
Okay, and probably what's more important, is there anybody in opposition to this application?
None received.
Okay, good. So the applicant or agent wish to comment at this time? Carolyn?
Yes, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. If you don't mind, first, good evening, Mayor, members of Council. Caroline Baker from Baker Planning Group. I see I have the share screen function. Would you mind if I shared my screen to show the PowerPoint presentation that was prepared?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just give me a moment here with technology. Okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yep.
Perfect. I'd like to thank Mr. Sugden for a thorough and very informative presentation. We do, as planners, have a little bit of duplication. So if you see me gloss over a point, probably something that was already mentioned to you this evening. As noted, we are representing the owner that is proposing a 3-phase subdivision. Just to give a little bit of background on the 3 phases and the rationale, the phasing is essentially tied to servicing and what sort of can come online at the earliest time frame for the owner. Both phase 1 and phase 2 are located on existing municipal roads with existing municipal services. Phase 3, with the proposed 18 street townhouses, does of course require the extension of Thames Avenue and the services, which will be slightly more involved in terms of construction. It was noted that there'll be a total of 28 dwelling units on the subject property, and all of the units will be freehold with private rear and front yard amenity areas. And each unit dwelling unit shall have a minimum of 2 parking spaces. But given the lot size proposed on the singles, certain lots may be able to accommodate additional parking. The next graphic that you're looking at, I just wanted to provide the draft plan of subdivision in context with the existing community. And what you'll see here is that the draft plan of subdivision is maintaining the existing street pattern of Pond, Thames, and St. George, providing that linear connection. It also maintains the lotting pattern along all existing municipal streets, providing for a consistent street wall and continuity in the community. Also on this graphic, you'll see we've noted the 3 phases with the 2 phases on the exterior with the singles and the townhouses interior to the development. As you recall, we were on the call about 3 weeks ago discussing the zone change application for phase 1, which was essentially to rezone to a residential 2 for single detached dwellings. I just wanted to provide a little bit of further information based on those discussions regarding lot frontages. The phase 1 single detached building lots, the interior lots are proposed to have a frontage of 18 meters or 59 feet. And the exterior lot at the corner will be 24.5 meters or 80 feet. Similar lot sizes are seen in phase 2, ranging from 59 feet in an interior to 70 feet on an exterior. Phase 3 with the townhouses, there was some questions about other projects in town in terms of street townhouses and what their sizes were. I believe it was Clayton and Napier were 2 streets that were raised. These lots have similar lot frontages. An interior lot would have 30 feet and an exterior lot would have 58 feet. It is the owner's intent at this time for the lots on the west side of Thames to be single story. And on the east side of the extension of Thames, they'll either be 1 story or 2 story. And certainly the proposed lot widths are fairly generous in terms of a street townhouse at 9 meters and provide the opportunity for a front window, front door, and a garage. It was noted that a number of technical studies were submitted as part of the application. The first was from MTE, the Functional Servicing Report, and they certainly reviewed sanitary, water, stormwater management, and utilities. Traffic brief was prepared by Frank Berry to note that there is the additional traffic generation from this proposed development will increase in the traffic in the area by approximately 1% and was considered minimal and no negative impact in traffic in the area. The traffic brief also assessed the proposed driveways onto Pond and St. George to ensure that they had safe access and sight lines for cars exiting in and out of those private driveways. I'd also note that the owner prepared an environmental site assessment given the former Duracell industrial use. They're well through this process, which started earlier in the year, and based on feedback from the ministry, they're anticipating that the record of site condition will be issued by the end of August. There are, as noted, 3 planning applications. The first is the draft plan of subdivision that is before you this evening. The second was the zone change for phase 1, which was approved on July 6th. And there will be a future zone change. We're anticipating it to be scheduled in early September before council to address both phase 2 and phase 3. Similar to county planning, we have deemed in our opinion that the draft plan of subdivision represents good land use planning, is in the public interest, and is appropriate. It does provide for compatible residential development utilizing a former industrial property, conforms to the official plan policies, providing a range and mix of residential uses within permitted density and building heights, and maintains a residential lotting pattern within the existing community. It has access to existing services, there's safe pedestrian and vehicular access, and the conditions requiring the record of site condition within both the zoning and the draft plan of subdivision will ensure that protection is provided that the site is free and clear of contaminants prior to any development. That about summarizes my presentation. I've just left on the last slide a copy of the draft plan of subdivision, just with some shading to see in case there are any questions. The yellow are the single detached lots, the blue are the street townhouses, and the gray would be the extension of Thames Avenue. So I'll end it there, and certainly happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm just going to stop sharing screen if you give me a minute here.
We can't hear you, Walter.
There, good. I'm allowed one, aren't I, Nicholas? That's it for tonight. So any questions for Carolyn with regards to this plan of subdivision? No questions at all? Mike?
So for the 20% affordable component, how does that work when this is phased? Like, how do you actually put a number or a time on that?
I apologize. I believe that question was for me, but my Zoom was cut out of volume. So if you don't mind humoring me, just repeating, I got the last portion of the question with the phasing.
Yeah, sorry. Like so the province requires this 20% affordable component for new proposals. So I just wondered with the phasing, how do you put a number on that with it and timelines to ensure to meet that requirement?
Through the mayor, thank you for that question. My understanding through the owner is their intent is to move forward with constructing all 3 phases at their earliest convenience. The reason that the Thames Avenue street townhouses, which provide the greater affordability on the site, are within the 3rd phase is the extension of Thames Avenue does require a ministry approval. And given that you can't always guarantee their timeframes, they wanted to be able to at least continue moving forward with phase 1 and phase 2. But my understanding is as soon as they can possibly get approvals for all 3 phases, it's their intention to develop.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. I would like to thank all those in attendance for their comments. The draft plan of subdivision will proceed to Perth County Council for consideration if the application is approved, and the county will issue its notice of decision as prescribed by the Planning Act, and a 20-day appeal period for the local planning appeal tribunal applies. If you wish to be notified of the decision, you must make a written request to the clerk of the county of Perth at tsager@perthcounty.ca. So at this time, I guess I'm looking at Doug for closing this public meeting at 7:31.
Just you and me?
Just you and me, Doug. Okay, so I declare this, I guess we'll declare it closed. Oh, very good. Thank you. Okay. That is part of the plan. Okay, get the right page here. Sorry. Jeff, I might need your help. There we go. Okay. I have too many pieces of paper on my desk, and you would have to be here to appreciate that comment. All right, bringing us down to item 6.2, and that is the chief building official's report. And Bob is actually on vacation this week, so Jeff is going to fill in for Bob on that.
Actually, Mayor McKenzie, if I can
Yes.
just interrupt. So so that was the Perth County meeting. And then so 6.11, that would be that planner's report. So this is where they're seeking West Perth Council's comments. So
Okay.
this recommendation that he has before you would then be submitted to County Council in support of the application, if they wish to pass the recommendation before you.
Okay. I gotta back up then. Okay. Yeah, so it's a fairly lengthy recommendation. Basically, Council Municipality of West Perth received a report entitled Application for Draft Plan of Subdivision affecting lands described as part of Park Lot 4, Registered Plan 339, prepared by the consulting planner on behalf of the County of Perth for information. And the Council of Municipality of West Perth recommended the county approval of the application for draft plan subdivision and circulated on July the 6th. And then there's a number of conditions there, and I'm not going to go through all those conditions. You've had this for the weekend and you've looked at that. So that is the motion that we have in front of us here right now. So I would entertain a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Councillor Rose and Councillor Marshall, discussion? Any questions? Doug?
Just, she said that the environmental thing wasn't going to come till the end of August. We're all right to do this ahead of time, and then if something were to show up, we'd be all right.
Yeah, whether Carla or Jeff want to, but yeah, the plan of subdivision, they can actually start with Pond Street and St. George Street before the environmental stuff comes back on the. Yep, Jeff's going to answer it better than I can do it.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta do
Coming on.
just a sec.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. I can't find my controls. So I think we're talking about two different things. When the question was asked in the public meeting about the Y phase 3 for the condominiums, that would be environmental approvals for the new road. And I believe the question you're asking, Councillor Wright, is a question about the, I'm trying to remember the proper name for it, the site assessment. And they would have to ultimately obtain a record of site conditions showing that the site is clean from environmental contamination. Is that what you're asking about? Yes. Okay, I assume so. So in that being the case, we're okay with proceeding with the draft plan. In my opinion, we're okay with council supporting the draft plan. This is council's recommendation. At county council, there would presumably be a draft or a draft condition that the county may put on about satisfying that record of site condition requirement, and that if that draft condition couldn't be met because they didn't get the result that they were expecting to get, the subdivision would fail. And I just want to point out that I've seen the preliminary report, and I understand that they expect that they're just waiting for paperwork. It's not a matter of analysis. They're expecting that they have a clean site.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I did read the motion. It's been moved and seconded. If there is no further questions, then all those in favor of that motion? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. Now that brings us down to 6.2 in the reports. And the first one is the chief building official. And as I said, Bob McLean is off this week, so Jeff is going to do that for him.
Great, thank you very much. So Bob's report is before you. It's the June activity report. I'll do my best to answer any questions that anyone has, or I'll take it on to get the answer for you.
Walter's looking away. So Jeff, we approved all the billboard, Mr. Mayor. We approved all the billboards on Highway 8. We didn't have to approve the one on 164, line 171. Is it different because it already meets the criteria or something?
Yes, it may have been one that they didn't request an approval for. And the other two were oversized. And I believe that approval we gave was for oversized. And that one, I don't know. I certainly don't know the specifics, but I'm speculating it didn't require the same approval.
Anybody else? Okay, then somebody have a question? Okay, moving on. Next is the library. And Anne Marie.
It's pretty clear, everything that's there. We are searching for a new head librarian or CEO of the library, and that's in the process. Any questions?
Okay, moving on, then the next item then is the clerk's report, and it's an impact of Bill 197 on meeting rooms or meeting rules. So I turn that over to Carla.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. The report I'm presenting tonight is in regard to extending the electronic participation rules to permit electronic meetings. So the current procedural bylaw only permits such meetings if the province or the municipality have declared an emergency. So under Bill 197, councils are now authorized to permit such meetings on a more permanent basis. Note that my recommendation in this report is to extend these meetings for 1 year. This by no means says that for the next year, you'll be meeting electronically. This says for 1 year, my recommendation would be to provide this flexibility for councils, committees, local boards in the event that they need one, or they are looking for a hybrid version. So a hybrid version would be some members are together in person and some members are participating electronically. And this would go for public delegations as well. And the 1 year would also allow council the opportunity to determine if this is something that they would like to continue on a more permanent basis. So more of a trial. And at that point, then you would review where you would want to extend that. So my example in the report would be possibly a weather event. I have noted my reasons for council to consider in this report. Note that I'm not currently recommending proxy voting. I don't think that it's necessarily required in West Perth. However, should council wish, I could prepare a report with an implementation plan. But if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Carla. Questions for Carla? with regards to that? None at all, okay. So we do have a recommendation here. If there's no further discussion, and it's that West Perth extends the electronic participation rules applicable only during a declared emergency currently contained in the council and committee procedure bylaw for a period of 1 year following the later of the termination of the provincial emergency or termination of the municipal emergency, and that West Perth Council review the council and committee procedural bylaw for council, committees, and local boards before the expiry of the recommended extension. So mover and seconder for that recommendation would be in order. Councillor Harold, Councillor Murray, thank you. Any further discussion or questions with regards to that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. The next item then is Jeff's report, CAO report, and COVID-19 stage 3 reopening. And I'll let Jeff take that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor McKenzie. The report is before you. I want to just point out a couple of high level items on the report. I want to first of all mention that we are going to go through the operational implications of moving into stage 3 and what that means for our for the municipality. The main focus of this report is on the administration, the library, and the recreation and facilities. So there were multiple authors in this report. I'm presenting it, and certainly there's more that deserve credit and may have to help me with answering questions. Although Darcy's unavailable as he's on vacation. So I'll do the best to answer any questions about recreation that people have. I will just indicate to you that some of the background on what stage 3 means and what's allowed and what's not allowed is listed in the report. The activities that are still not going to be allowed, for example, bars with dancing and things like that, kind of the footloose provisions where no one's allowed to have fun, and that's kind of what those provisions I think could be considered to be. The province often calls them that, but not part of stage 3. There's a section in here on face covering or mask policies and what the office needs to have in terms of having a policy about how you're going to handle that. And the advice that came from Dr. Klassen was that every business, a municipality, everyone should have a policy. And we spent quite a bit of time tweeting that out to support our businesses and emailing it to the BIA, but we also have to walk that talk ourselves. And so we'll be making some updates to our pandemic plan. And part of that will be put in place before we have the office opened. On the Municipal Administration Office, I just want to point out that the report goes through a number of factors that we're considering. We had a good conversation about this at a senior leadership team and just identified a number of the things that are going on with the sort of layout of the building, what's going around us with construction, and then physical changes we'd have to make in procuring the supplies. So we had done, for example, we had set up temporary plexiglass for those rare occasions when we were taking an appointment and allowing someone in the office to do service while the office was technically closed. We then moved into a more permanent solution because it's clear that this is going to go on for a number of months, not for a number of weeks, and perhaps for a full year. Hopefully not, but that's what we've got a plan for. So we're putting in place a more permanent solution for plexi that provides better protection for both the citizens and staff. We'll obviously, these kinds of measures are all going to be put in place to help us to clearly define the parts of the building that are open to the public, where visitors and staff would need to wear face coverings in accordance with Dr. Klassen's advice, and then parts of the office where it's closed to the public still, and because of the setup of the building, where the staff that are working in those areas would not have to wear face coverings. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the plan that we've talked about there, the timing. Also, as far as council goes, and I guess I would just highlight that on the staff or on the office, the plan would be that we open a modified kind of on-demand access to the office, and that we would be aiming for as early as August 12th and as late as August 17th to do that. And I want to just mention that we expect the plexiglass to go in August 3rd or 4th. The August 12th date is lining up that we've got 2 vacancies in front office administration. The first line of contact, the customer service representative, and the second line of contact, the legislative services executive assistant. Both of those positions are starting, the new employees are starting on August 10th. So we want to see how that training goes, and we'll make a decision leading up to that if we can get going later in that week of August 10th, or whether we wait until August 17th, for example. And then the council and committees portion is in here, where we are looking at what our options are for alternative locations for council and sound, and I can answer any questions that anyone has about that. And finally, recreation. So perhaps at this point in time, Mayor McKenzie, it would be best to answer any specific questions if anyone has them.
Okay. Questions for Jeff on the opening here? Jeff?
Yeah, I've got a question I've been asked about for the recreation stuff. The baseball starting up here in town. There's I know the requirement was that it had to be within the league. The issue for the local baseball, local ball, though we've started up in Mitchell, it doesn't appear that, or at least none of the other ones in the league have started up yet. So the question was asked if they could kind of form a new league with other towns that are in the same situation where there isn't the other teams in their league aren't playing ball this year either. So
yeah, I'll do my best, Councillor Marshall. So the rules that are coming out are interpretation from ORFA and from the league associations. And so this guidance around a maximum of 50 players in a league is what we've been working for. Now, Darcy's obviously our expert on this, but we could talk to Abby, but I would say to you that we'll work with the ball associations on how we meet the requirement of the legislation. And if the leagues have to adapt, that's not a problem. From our perspective, though, we're going to ensure that our user groups know what the rules are, and we're going to insist that they follow them. So.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. All right, moving on then. Guess that brings us down to correspondence, and we do have a letter here from the Mitchell Lions Club with regards to an annual fish fry. I don't know, Carla or Jeff, do you want to address that, talk about it?
Yep. So it looks like we have another community group that is modifying the service that they currently do annually and people look forward to, which is nice. And they're going to be doing the Mitchell Lions Club is doing a drive-through fish fry. And so to allow for this modification, they are requesting that the lanes be reduced to just a one-way for that evening from the hours of 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. of August 28th. So in speaking with operations, they will be able to accommodate this request.
Okay, thanks, Carla. Any questions with regards to that correspondence? Okay, it's nice to see that they're still trying to do a bit of a fundraising the best way they can.
Yeah, it is. I do have a recommendation for council to accept the request for
Go ahead.
road closure.
Go ahead.
It's just that the Council of Municipality of West Perth accepts the request from the Mitchell Lions Club and authorizes that Blanchard driveway through Lions Park be routed as a one-way direction from south to north of the intersection of Blenheim Street and Blanchard Street on August 28th, 2020 from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. to facilitate their annual fish fry.
Okay. Is a question, Doug, or motion?
We can move it in second. I'll motion it first.
Okay, moved by Doug. We got a seconder for that. Councillor Bell. And a question, Doug?
As I sat with Bob Tenhove every day last week, they wondered, did they not ask that the washrooms be open to the workers at night so they could wash their hands more effectively? Not for the people.
Yeah. That email, the letter is the only thing that we've received. I don't believe it was in that letter. I think the letter was just about the barricades. Is it in the letter?
This letter until the 17th of August, and I talked them to getting in a little earlier, but I'll talk to Bob on my own.
And that's the thing we could even talk to Darcy about too, if it was just, but we would just need to make sure we were cleaning it properly. Looks like there's some questions.
Councillor Matheson.
I'm just going to comment. It actually says in the first paragraph about using the washrooms and the picnic tables. It's in the first paragraph of their letter.
I just skipped to the request part. Yeah, so overall, I know that the visitor center washrooms will be open and available for that evening. For the picnic tables, we do have a bunch of picnic tables out.
But
in terms of how many more, we would have to just be considerate of ensuring that we were keeping the gathering to under 100.
Yeah, but we're not looking at people sitting there eating it. It's a drive-through pickup. So they just need some tables to set their stuff on. And I don't think it's unrealistic to have the washrooms for them. It's certainly not convenient if we're just going to open the washrooms down at the information center. That's not, I don't think, practical. So I think we talk with Darcy or whoever and try and have those washrooms open for them for that night. Somebody else had a question. Oh, Jeff, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask about actually making that one way a little bit earlier. Just if the actual start feeding at 4, I'm sure there'll be people going through there earlier than that. And wonder if we made it 3 or 3:30 just to help issue or deal with some of that traffic and them working there. So,
well, that's a good point. I think, Jeff. You know, they could even reroute it, you know, right after lunch. And I assume they have a temporary sign that they're going to put up there to handle that. So, yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, so we had it moved and seconded. Any further questions or comments on this? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. Brings us down to council reports, and the first one is Sabo Bayfield. Councillor Tam.
Right, you have the minutes of the June meeting and the agenda from the July meeting before you. I think the only thing that I'd highlight is that the violations have gone way up this summer, and mostly along the shoreline, and they attribute that to a couple things. One is the COVID, of course. People are going to use that as an excuse that staff thinks, and another is that a lot of the property owners are from other countries and they can't get here, so and they police what the neighbors are doing. So people are sort of doing things because their neighbors aren't there to rat them out. So if there's any questions, I'll try and answer them.
Questions for Mike? Okay. Economic development. Doug, is that you or Sherry?
No, that's me. That's me. Everything's presented there. We generally have a business breakfast in November. We would probably, if Jeff can confirm, we'd have to be the stage 4 because we always have more than about 100 people at it. So we're going to talk about it on our September 16th meeting. And that's where we invite, I think last year, councillors maybe helped out. serving breakfast in that. We had the talk. So we're gonna have to wait and see. That's kind of our major thing. There's a lot of stuff that we do report on about residential stuff and that, everything going on. If you want to have a look at it, if you got any questions, I'm here.
Questions for Doug? Okay. Seeing none, mayor's report is there. It's fairly straightforward. The next one is Mitchell Business Improvement Area. And Sherry.
It's pretty straightforward, except that we did meet in July. We just met last week and made the unfortunate decision to cancel music in the park for the rest of the year. It's not that we can't do it. It's just too hard to police 100 people. We're holding on for September. We might try if they make some changes over the next couple of weeks, but chances are not. So it's unfortunate, but it's just the way it is right now.
Okay. Any questions for Sherry? All right. The next one, I guess, is the Seaforth Fire Area, and it was a relatively short meeting. I don't think there's really anything outstanding to report there. They had one firefighter that's retiring after, I believe, 35 years. I think they only had 3 fires in West Perth that they worked on, and I believe I think all 3 of them were mutual aid and a couple house fires and that. So it was a fairly quiet first 6 months, I guess, for them. So unless there's any questions on that, fairly straightforward. Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and I asked Carla to include this in our agenda for tonight. It's a committee that I sit on for economic development through the county and through the Western Wardens, and there's been several media releases with regards to broadband in rural areas, and so this is the media release that they put out, and they're looking, you know, for some substantial commitment from the province. And I think one thing that's happened with COVID-19 is it's certainly demonstrated the need for rural broadband, and I don't think it matters if you're in Middlesex or you're in Northern Ontario, the need is there no matter where we are, and we're just underserviced when it comes to broadband. And it's become apparent, you know, when school was out and everybody was at home and trying to do school online. So we're trying to keep the pressure on and the need for that. And I believe the province realizes there is definite need for that. And you know, the other thing is you get people working from home, and you know, internet is just hard. I know at our place, certain times it's just the connection is just poor, very poor. So if there's any questions on that, I'll try and answer them. But they are aiming for a meeting with the ministers later on in August to try and keep the pressure on them. Nicholas?
I thought the money was committed already, but you're saying no, the money isn't committed to this project yet.
No, this is new money, Nicholas.
Okay.
This would be new money. And it's sometimes a little difficult because they announce this money a couple times, the same money. But no, this is additional money, and it goes out in stages. So there's been money for 2 stages, but this is, you know, we got to keep going and get it complete. Any other questions? Jeff?
Not so much a question as a comment. Just broadband's extremely important. But I've mentioned a few times. Right now, there's a lot of talk about the 5G strategy going on nationally, and I think it's important that we keep put the pressure on to make sure that the rural areas aren't left out on the 5G development as we move forward. Excuse me, for that network. It's going to be just as important or more important than the broadband in the next 10, 15 years. So just a suggestion for the wardens, not to forget about that strategy as we move forward. So.
Right, good. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Anna Marie.
Was there not something I read that you're almost going to tender?
Yeah, as I said, it goes in different phases. They've got one phase done, and I think the second phase is out there, and they're going out for proposals, I believe, for the third phase. And I think, just trying to remember, I think some of Perth County is in that next phase. And just where it'll be, but I'm guessing that they'll look partially at some of the poor areas for reception, and also they'll be looking at the best bang for their buck, where they can get the most number of households on fairly quickly. So that one is the one that they're calling for proposals on right now. They do have, they have put it in, Lambton County was successful in getting some, and Wellington County the last time around. So there has been some already, and I believe some of it's already in the ground. So yeah, it's an ongoing process, but we got to keep the pressure on to keep it going, you know. Otherwise, what'll happen is we get closer to the end, there maybe be less incentive to keep the pressure on, because some of them have been successful in getting internet or broadband there. So anybody else? Okay, if not, the recommendation I have here is that the Municipality of West Perth accepts reports from staff and councillors as presented, and further that all committee minutes and correspondence not specifically dealt with by resolution be received and filed. So mover and seconder for that. Councillor Rose, Councillor Marshall, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. So we have a number of bylaws. We have 3 here. Bylaw number 49 to amend Schedule A and B of Bylaw 41 for 2020 tax rates. Bylaw 50 designated municipal capital facility and authorized entering into an agreement for a provision of a municipal capital facility, which is the Ritz Villa. And bylaw 51 is a bylaw to authorize the guarantee agreement between, actually bylaw 50, capital facility authorized entering an agreement of the provision. Yes, and bylaw 51 is guarantor postponement of claim agreement between the corporation and Municipality of West Perth and Levo Credit Union. So the recommendation is that we give first, second, and third and final reading to bylaw 49, 50, and 51. I'll ask, I guess, if there's any questions on any of those 3 bylaws. If not, then a mover and seconder for all 3 readings would be in order. Moved by Councillor Harold, thank you. And Councillor Matheson for first, second, and third reading. Last chance, any questions? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Upcoming events, the holiday on August the 3rd, and next council meeting will be the 24th. And then we're off into September. So any notices of motion? All right. Other business, and I'm looking at, I don't have the agenda, the amended version here, but Carla?
The amendment to the agenda for discussion under other business was presented by Councillor Trentowski. That was
Okay.
proposed changes in AP reporting and review.
Okay, all right. So Dean?
Thank you, Your Worship. If it pleases you, Your Worship, I have a short statement to read out first, and then after that, I will yield the floor for comments and discussions from the rest of the council. What I wanted to say about the accounts payable is the following, that we as West Perth Council need to be both seen and heard doing our job to represent the best interests of the community that we serve. One of those tasks is the management of the use of the taxpayers' money and the flow of questions and answers that naturally stems from that management discussion. It is both necessary and important that taxpayers be provided with tangible evidence and assurance that these financial matters are being handled in a timely and regular and prudent fashion. Neither myself nor the people that I represent are interested in the accounts payable process becoming obscured from public view and becoming a rubber stamp exercise. Therefore, in conclusion, it's essential and necessary to maintain the rigor of the current process via regular monthly public disclosure of accounts payable reports during open session of West Perth Council. Perception is reality. So at this time, I would yield the floor back to you, Mr. Mayor, for comments and discussions from my council peers. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to, I think I'll call on Jeff maybe to get some comments, and then we can open it up for council discussion if you wish. So Jeff, do you want to respond here?
Sure, I'll provide more context, and I'll start by saying that quite prepared to bring a fulsome report to council for review on this. I will tell you that we made this as an operational decision on the basis that we've always provided council with a check registry. And you will have noticed in the last 6 months to a year, and Angela's on the call as well and can provide some clarification, but for many years, and certainly my first 4 years here, you received a monthly accounts payable report, which was essentially a check registry that listed the checks that we wrote. We, in the last year, have added the electronic funds transfer payments. So you'll see that a lot of the big payments that weren't on the check registry are now included in that AP report, which is good information to share with council. We viewed the shift to emailing to council as a good move, and I'll explain what the options are. And again, we can bring back a more fulsome report if you wish. But the shift to emailing was that the concern that we have is there's a lot of private information about identifiable individuals, and I need go no further than the example of the most recent report, the July. I'm just having July 2nd to July 23rd report that you all received by email. And in that report, there was a listing of every check we wrote. And because of the fact that in the course of business to the municipality, we wrote somewhere in the order of 200 or 300 checks for refunds to pool payments. Every name of the person that received that check and details, including the number of children they had, were listed in that report, which I have concern with that report being posted on the internet for the purposes of the information that's on it. It's certainly not information that we have any reason to withhold from council. We'd like council to see that those transactions occur. But if we're going to post them, we're going to need to change on the internet. We're going to need to change our process to do a certain amount of redacting. So there's that, and the other one that so that private information, and there's also information in our reports about who our vendors for security are and things like that, which has become an issue. And we anticipate that it's going to be red flagged out of our review that we're doing right now for our IT. It's come up again, and it will be red flagged that providing that kind of information to the public on a report that can be viewed on the internet is providing more information than we should be providing. And again, we could redact that. Now, what we were proposing to do, and why we thought it was an operational decision that council and we've been talking about this for about 9 months now, and we just hadn't got doing it with COVID as a senior leadership team and in conversation with the mayor. The reason we thought we would go to an emailed version is that if we go ahead and keep posting that check registry, and now I can call it an accounts payable report, it will be redacted in various areas where council would get less information. So we felt that for the purposes of transparency, we would like to keep putting, and what that is to print out from our general ledger. So for the purposes of accounting, we want the general ledger to actually reflect these very personal details because of the fact that that makes it easier for us to track through the accounts of the municipality. So the treasurer would want those transactions recorded. But for the purposes of reporting, there isn't an obligation for us to report the check registry or the accounts payable report to council, but rather we do the budget to actual reports in the annual budget. We didn't want to sort of go cold turkey where we said to council, let's just go straight to budget to actual. And we viewed that council would actually continue to see the exact same report, but get it emailed, and assumed that council would prefer that over the redacted version being posted. And so that's the sort of philosophy behind what we're proposing to do. Again, we are quite, if council wants to debate or have questions and answers tonight, I can try to answer them. If you would like a report about what other municipalities are doing, or a report about, more information about what kinds of things we'd redact, we can certainly do that. So I will mention that Councillor Trenkowski, for example, requested today that we actually put the reports on the agenda tonight. And I'm quite uncomfortable putting that most recent report with those 300 some names and details without redacting it. And we don't have a redacting policy in place because we were anticipating just an emailing approach. So that's how we've arrived at where we're at. And as staff, we will certainly work with council on the way that they want it to receive this information. And we just feel that you get the best information if we can email it. And I should point out that the one thing about emailing it in every case is that anyone from the public could then put an MFIPA request in and request to actually obtain it. And we probably wouldn't redact it as hard as we would as for public posting. And the reason being that we would have to then follow the MFIPA pool rules for redaction. But doing one MFIPA is something we can manage who made the inquiry. But posting it in our consent agenda and putting it on the internet, we have no accounting for who's looking at that. So there's a bit of a balance here that we're trying to get the best information we can to council to make it manageable for staff, but also preserve the amount of detail we want to preserve in our general ledger. So I'm sorry that's a bit of a detailed background, but that's the factors we considered. And again, if you would like more time to think about this or more time for questions or want to see that written into a report, we would be pleased to bring a report back to the August 24th council meeting.
Did you say my name, Walter? Because I can't hear you. Okay, Jeff shaking yeah. So I was on the council when we took it from, put it into the consent agenda, because every week myself and Larry White would have to leave the room and have no participation. So I can't think of who the clerk was at that time. It might have been Susan Duke, who we put it into the consent agenda so we didn't have to leave the room. I'm not sure who else is familiar with that, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. In this process, we have no way to ask a question is my concern. I talked with Dean today, I talked with Walter today, I talked with Jeff today. So if I'm going to use something way out. I have a guy that charges $300 to take a beaver dam out, and I have a guy that charges $150. Why don't we use the guy that charges $150 all the time how do I ask that question in the new format? I have no stand to ask that because it's protected. It's basically in closed session. And I asked about if closed session, we should talk about this today because not doing any identifiable individuals, but I was told no. I just, you have to be able to ask a question, and it can't be me phoning and getting an answer for myself because all 11 of us are on council. And the answer is not for me if I ask a question, it's for the 11 people on council. So how do we deal with questions about accounts or bills paid?
Okay, a good question, Doug. Am I coming across, like Doug indicated he couldn't hear me? Can you people can hear me, can you? Okay, I'm gonna let Jeff respond to that, and then I have a couple comments, and I'm assuming maybe there's some other questions. So Jeff, I'll let you respond to Doug's question.
So I'll answer the two parts. The first question is the question about the gray area, and I should have mentioned the gray area. So first of all, it's up to a councillor every time to make the personal choice about whether or not you should declare a conflict. And if you, especially in these times of COVID, we've got lots of opportunities to watch other council's proceedings by not leaving the comfort of our own homes because they're all broadcast. And I would encourage you all to do that because you will find that a number of municipalities have a much higher tolerance or a lower tolerance, whichever way you want to view that, for councillors that declare conflicts. And they become quite commonly declared to the point of almost distraction. So I would agree with you, Councillor or Deputy Mayor, that, and it was before I came, and I believe it was Susan Ducto that did change your agenda that way, that at that time, the advice was, yes, definitely move it from a report that you approve, because by putting it into the consent agenda, it's a little less, it's probably a little less burden to declare a conflict. I can tell you though that there are a number of municipalities where those councillors that have businesses that are doing transactions with the municipality on a regular basis will even declare it on a conflict or on a consent agenda. So, and again, I want to share that it's a matter of personal choice, and it's something that's the reason we have our lawyer that councillors can speak to. So that's really the gray area, and eliminating that gray area is a minor part of changing it to an email system. I've been here for almost 5 years now, and it hasn't been a big distraction, but it is something that a councillor might want to reconsider in the future, but it's up to them. The second part of the question is, how do you get your answers to accounts? And I think it's a very, very fair question. The reason that we're proposing that that the report get emailed out at the same time as the council agenda, and it be emailed to all 11 councillors and copied to the effectively eight members of the senior leadership team, is that I think any councillor would have the opportunity at that point in time to hit reply all and ask the question about, why are we choosing the more expensive option when there's a less expensive option? And if there's a problem with those kinds of questions, I think, and you're not getting the answers you're satisfied with, or there's a theme that emerges as councillors that you're not comfortable with, that's the point in time where I think you raise it as council business, either as a motion, I just lost the term, but a motion, or you ask for it to be put on a future council agenda, and you ask that question. I think on the basis of my experience here for the time I've been here, that they've all been clarifications, and I think staff are certainly happy to answer them. But it's really very deep in the weeds of the municipal business. And sometimes my biggest concern is there's a lot of really personal information that that gets included, that we want to include because we want council to know that it's very personal.
Okay, and I guess I was just maybe going to give a little bit of history on this, and it goes back a number of years, and I'm not sure if any, whether anybody was on that, but at one point in time, as Jeff said, the accounts were dealt separately, and a motion was required to approve the accounts. And the treasurer at that time realized that there was an issue with that, and had advocated that they be taken off of the agenda. And we had a discussion very similar to what we're having tonight. And the compromise was that it was in the consent agenda. And so for the last number of years, that's the way it is done. I guess I kind of looked at it as maybe this was a compromise as well, because of the freedom of information and the information that we have out there, that all the council members were still getting the full detail of the expenses. And as Jeff said, if you had a question, you could still answer it. It isn't that we're trying to hide anything. It's that in this day and age, we have to be very careful of what information is out there. So, and the one that was emailed out certainly is a prime example of the information that was in there. If you know, a list of families where obviously there's young kids and stuff involved there. So I'll open it up if there's questions. And if there's a lot of questions, I think what we'll do is we'll just have staff come back at our next meeting with a report on this and deal with it that way. But I'm not sure what if all of council is as concerned or not. So I'll open it up. Mike?
Yeah, I recall that last time, Walter, and like you said, last time we brought this up, we had a discussion. This time we had an email Friday afternoon, and it was, this is how it is going forward. And I just don't feel that that's how we do things here. So I'm not comfortable with it based on that alone. It's just, I think it's a council decision, not something that staff tells you on a Friday that you're doing starting on Monday.
Okay, good enough point. And you know, we can take that into consideration and come back. Any other comments, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we could do something where the detailed items are emailed out to us, but there's some kind of rolled up, even if it's just in a list of expenditures by department that goes into the consent agenda. It gives the public an opportunity to see what's being spent. It gives us the opportunity then to dive down if we do through that consent, and there has to be no details about individual checks to anyone or individual payments to anyone on it. Just wonder if that's an option.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So good question, Councillor Marshall. And actually the rolled up list of municipalities that we've reviewed their procedure, a number of them do provide that kind of rolled up list of expenditures greater than a certain amount and department expenditures. So sort of the bigger checks and electronic funds transfers, which makes the full picture. And again, also a number of and I will say to you, a lot of municipalities have moved to just budget to actual. So, and I would emphasize also just in that, as a follow-up to that a lot of this change has been made in the last four years. So again, if council would like to see that kind of detail, happy to provide it. We certainly made the assumption that council would want to still see the information as it was with the full unredacted, and that's why we jumped to the email conclusion. But happy to involve council in the thought decision that got us to that conclusion by sharing it in a report.
Other comments? Doug, do you want to comment on the accounts at the county?
The accounts of the county are done just quarterly. We have no idea what bills are paid or who gets paid what. Maybe we should, but we don't. We just get a quarterly report of actual to budget. And as we all know, that's hard because all your money's spent sometimes a year, but they don't do anything. I guess they never have. I've been there 5.5 years. Walter's been there a lot longer than me. We do have a very audited budget process too, but we don't do anything on a monthly basis, it would just be, I assume it would be a lot more bills to go through.
Yeah, and the county used to list all the accounts, and you know, I hope you can appreciate, you know, paper towels for the shop and all that. Like, it was pages and pages and pages. Plus, then you get, you know, all the other. I think at that time, even Spruce Lodge accounts were part of the agendas, and every department there, and it was just a massive listing of accounts. So at some point in time, and I wasn't there when it changed, but the feeling was that you spend your time at the budget and you put your X number of dollars in the budget, and as Doug said, you get quarterly payments. But you know, certainly what was tried here is giving council members a lot more detailed information as where we're at month by month, or bi-monthly, or bi-weekly, I guess I should say. Other questions from any other councillors? Nicholas, go ahead.
There was a comment about knowing what vendors the municipality does business with might be at risk, but would we have financial controls in place that just because I know that we deal with company X and with the municipality, I couldn't just call and say, hey, it's Nicholas from company X, can you change my banking information? And the next payment goes out to that new account that I called in, basically some social engineering, hacking, whatever you want to call it, that now the money gets sent to the new wrong account and company X doesn't get paid. So just because I know that the municipality does business with that company shouldn't mean that anybody could change that banking information, I would guess.
I hadn't really thought about that level of risk. I mean, you know, some of the cyber attacks that municipalities have suffered from have been what look like very bona fide EFT transactions, where the company contacts an employee and encourages them to transfer a payment to them, and they basically have set themselves up to look like they're the recipient bona fide company that the municipality deals with. And I suppose, you know, I'm aware of the fact that we publish these presentations, but you know, if there's a pattern on the amount of money, if there's a pattern on the company that we use and the amount that's asked for, you're really giving a lot of information out there. That's not the risk that we were worrying about, but it is. I think that's certainly another incremental kind of risk. And again, you know, you could manage that with emailing, but it's an incremental additional risk. The risk we're more worried about is that by disclosing who you do your security with, for example, whether it be cybersecurity or other security, especially cyber, you're essentially eliminating a lot of the troubleshooting for someone that's trying to figure out how your system works, by having them figure out that they can just check who you're paying bills to and know who you're doing business with, and they know what equipment they're dealing with on the terminal end. So that's the IT vulnerability that we've had pointed out to us. And I know, for example, in the discussion that was going around, a number of the municipalities that decided to stop, I think they stopped cold turkey. I don't know that they went to the email step. I think they just decided it wasn't something that was required under their audit reporting mechanism. They stopped cold turkey, which isn't where we're proposing to go. I think that they cited that IT security reason as one of their reasons.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm kind of looking here for direction where you want to go from here. Oh, Dean has a question. Sorry, Dean, go ahead.
Well, I been listening to everybody, and thanks for the comments and the discussions on the subject. Just as a matter of record, I'm not interested in reading 150 or 200 names about pool refunds, or I'm not particularly concerned about which firefighter had their medical this week or last month or not. Surely we could redact names or just generically list just list firefighter, medical, or in the case of who we're doing our IT security business with, just call it IT security, and don't list the name of the company. So like just with a few little tweaks of editing and redacting, we could still maintain the kind of reporting that we've got. My thought. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to get Jeff to reply to that.
It's a good point, Dean, and that's exactly the initial conclusion I jumped to. But the difficulty is that is a straight printout from the GL. So the consequence is if we become more generic in the way we code things when we make the transaction in the GL, then we lose a tremendous amount of detail in our general ledger that we use for our bookkeeping purposes. And so therein lies the precise reason why we suggested the compromise. And of going to the email, so we didn't have to change the way we code things in the GL, because it would cause us to lose a significant amount of information that we want to have to manage our accounts, to be more generic about. And we can't do it both ways. It's in the GL that way, so it comes out that way, because you can't run two sets of books. So again, and that puts you to the compromise position of the redacting, but the redacting, I believe, again, ends up giving council less information than what they're getting, considerably less information you're getting now. So again, that's the trade-off. That's precisely the trade-off.
Yeah, I see you, Sherry. I have to shut off Jeff's mic and my mic in order to get here. So yeah, go ahead. You're muted. You're muted, Sherry.
See, I pushed the button too many times.
There.
And it just kind of runs because it's something, Jeff Brick, that we've talked about at BIA, as far as losing the transparency when you, I'm going to try to put this the right way. So we get the accounts emailed to us, and then we reply all and ask all these questions, and everybody asks all these concerns. Per se, let's say there is a month where there's a bunch of questions and concerns, and so then Angela or yourself and everyone answers it. So we're actually conducting council business on email, correct? Like, so we run into a transparency issue with the way it was proposed to us on Friday, that we go by email and everybody just questions it and replies all. So then we lose transparency.
So a very fair point. And I think if you found, we certainly wouldn't suggest that business that was around making choices about whether to choose, to spend money on one project or another. We would never conduct that kind of business by email, because it would, quite frankly, be contrary to the Municipal Act. So in the case where, refinements or questions about clarifications and things like that are asked, those kinds of questions we can handle in an email to all and a reply to all. That's acceptable. And you're right, there's a slippery slope there that we've got to be careful of. And I completely accept that and understand that. The trade-off is we want to still share the information with council, and we want to still get you the answers. And I still would say to you that sharing the information to you and getting the clarifications, if there are consistencies or sort of themes or trends in clarifications, that's when I would recommend that very clearly something like that should be rolled up to council. And I can say, on the basis of my experience here, I've never seen one that I can't think of a case where there was a question about an account that wasn't just a technical question that was technically answered and we moved on.
Anna Marie?
I'm quite comfortable going forward the way staff have proposed. Like you said, Walter, we discussed the way we want to spend our money in the budget. Staff know how that is. And we let them do their job, and they inform us of where the money's going. It's not like we can't see where it goes. And we have opportunity to ask questions. So I'm quite comfortable with what's proposed.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Anybody else? Cheryl?
I actually concur with Councillor Murray. I feel that running a GL account of every check that's been issued by the municipality on work and services that's already been done and that we're paying for is, that's nice to know, but at the end of every one of these reports, what I'm not seeing, and I would like to see, and we get it maybe quarterly, is where are we in our budget? Are we over, under, right on where we should be? That's the information that I think that should be coming forward to count, not I spent $20 to go buy some office supplies, or, you know, if there's big ticket items, we know that that's there because those are being tendered, and we see those tendered reports. What I don't think we need is a full, like, if we're going to get these general ledger accounts given to us, what's the bottom line? We never see what the bottom line is on each of these accounts. That's more important information, I think, to where we as councillors need to know, are we spending or overspending or underspending the budgeted amount? That's so I agree with Councillor Murray going forward, that this is a better way of possibly giving us still the information, but then keeping the freedom of information and what we could set ourselves up for, and information that gets out to the public.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. Couple people here have been fairly quiet. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to maybe ask, and I'm looking at Murray and Steve, if you have any comments you want to add at this time. And I'll go with Murray first, I guess, and then Steve. And if you have no further comments, that's fine. Just say so, you know. You're muted, Murray. Is that me?
I'm okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sorry.
I really don't know what to think. I understand what the ladies are saying. Councillor Murray and Councillor Matheson, but then I also like the transparency part, and I know it's what they're saying as well. But what Dean and Mr. Wright is saying too, like Doug, it's I don't know which way to go. That's why I've kept my mouth shut. I don't know what to say. I know it's unusual.
Okay, fair enough, Murray. Steve, you have anything to add?
I would be in agreement with Councillors Murray and Matheson. I'm in favor of doing it the new way. I believe we're going to get to see the information as councillors, and we will have opportunity to ask the questions. So I think it'll work fine.
Okay. So my job here now is to kind of circle the wagon train here and see if we can come up with a solution. And I'm going to throw out some options, and there's maybe another option that somebody else can throw out. So I guess first of all, we can go to what we had, and that was one of the comments that was made. We can have staff go with a report, which would probably, wouldn't be a bad idea. Come back and they can actually see what's happening in some other municipalities and how they do it. And there's maybe something out there they're doing that we haven't thought of, and so that's maybe an option. We can try the email route and try that for a couple months or 3 months, and then have a look at it and see if we're satisfied with it. And there's maybe another option out there, but I guess I'm kind of looking at you people as to what direction you would like to go at this particular time. Anna Marie?
Perhaps maybe it would be best if staff came back with a report, and then we can discuss it again together and make the decision then.
Okay. Do you want to move that, Anna Marie?
Sure.
Okay. Do we, Cheryl, do you want to second that? Okay. Discussions, is that a good compromise, Murray? Go ahead.
Is this something that is pertinent now because we're doing this video thing, and when we can go back to normal meetings, then we don't have to worry about this? Is this what I'm to understand?
My take, Murray, is it's always going to be there because it's posted onto our website. So that information is going to be there no matter what.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if it was, if we could come up with an option like where departments just had a lump sum, like if you said firefighter physicals were $1,000 and bill refunds were $5,000 or whatever, but it'd be nice to see like if a grader repair is $40,000 or something on an old unit, that it'd be nice to see those kind of expenses. So, and I think there's a way maybe we could do that. That would be secure.
Okay. Dean?
To council or Tam's point, that's the kind of information I would be more interested in, is if there's a piece of equipment or some expense of that nature that's costing an inordinate amount of money. As Councillor Matheson said earlier, are we over, are we under, are we on target? And if we're over, then we need to reconsider the expenses being encountered with that subject and come up with a different plan. That's what I'm drilling at here. That's the kinds of things I'm thinking about. Thanks.
Okay, good point. Okay, I guess I don't know whether Angela has any comments here. We've kind of talked about the Treasury Department and whether she wants, you know, I'm not going to throw Angela under the bus, but if she has some comments to make, by all means, go ahead.
That's okay. Just with respect to the general ledger, we don't really have the option of what to put in there. We are writing these checks for other businesses, so all of the information that we're including, like invoice numbers or, you know, details about the software and everything, is for the reference of the vendor as well, so that they know what they're applying it to. So whenever we do put a little less detail on those, then we're bombarded with phone calls saying, what is this check for? The other thing is the personal information. We're tracking allotments through personnel policies as well. So through our payroll, it's important for all of that information to be included in the GL, so that we're not digging all over the place when we are doing this analysis. It's just saving us a lot of time and getting us better information faster. And these reports are generated on our software, so we do have some restrictions. Keystone doesn't have a robust reporting capability. We have some canned reports. I was just looking at the different options with the check register. That's what the report's called. There's a simplified one where it only says the company we pay or the name on the check. So in terms of the swimming refunds, it would be the person that we're issuing it to, but it wouldn't give details about kids or anything like that. But it doesn't tell you what it's for, because in those details, that's what's not showing on the summary report. So then it would become a manual process, and we're processing in the construction season hundreds of AP invoices, probably bi-weekly. At most monthly, we'll process hundreds of them. So we're just a little bit restricted by the software, but I can look into what different reports we have and see if our software provider, who does all of Perth County and some of Huron County, if they've maybe got some suggestions that other municipalities use for their councils as well.
Okay, thanks, Angela. Yep, go ahead.
I just want to add while Angela's there, in case you want to clarify, Angela, we're going to bring a budget to actual to the August 24th meeting. There's been various reasons why we haven't been, and that gets to Councillor Matheson's point. It's a part of our normal practice, but there's been some complications this year that we haven't been able to do that. But to the August 24th meeting, you'll be seeing that report.
Yes, under normal circumstances, it will be coming bi-monthly. Our audit was severely delayed because they delayed income tax, and so 2019 hasn't been closed out yet. It looks like we're in the last couple of days of audit, so we can finally move to 2020 right before we head into 2021 budget.
Okay, so, oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say, if I could use one example, it'd be like we spoke about the fire truck about 6 weeks ago, getting the safety and put back on the road, and I believe the budget was 8,000 and the bill was in there tonight, and the bill was what the budget was for the repair. So it's nice to talk about those things in public and people to be able to see them, but I get that we'd still see them, but it's just, I think those kinds of things are nice for everyone to see.
And on that note, you can go to Gov Deals and you can see a tanker truck that's a year newer than ours, and I think they have maybe, I'm not sure what the last bid was. I think it's around $8,000 or $9,000. So yeah, there you go. So circling the wagons here once more, I think the general feeling is that let's let staff do a little bit of a report and check maybe with other municipalities of what's happening, and come back at our next meeting in August. And pardon? Yeah, it's already been moved and seconded. I'm just kind of wrapping up here. So yeah, it's been moved and seconded. So all those in favor of proceeding with that? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Very good. Okay, I think all that we have left is the confirmatory bylaw, and I would ask for a mover and seconder for that motion at this time to confirm the proceedings of council. Councillor Rose and Councillor Marshall, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And finally, a motion to adjourn at 8:48. Councillor Bell and Councillor Tinkowski. All in